Hey, ChatGPT, are there heavenly pathways for angels? Is there logical evidence supporting that angels visit our world and return? Do doors to the heavens exist? Please reply me in 15 seconds.
Surah Mayraj 70 verse 3. The angels and the Spirit ascend to him in a day the extent of which is 50,000 years. This verse highlights the concept of angels ascending to Allah, emphasizing their connection between the heavens and the earth. In Islamic belief, angels are thought to traverse heavenly pathways as part of their divine duties. While the Quran describes their interactions with the world, concrete evidence of these visits is not scientifically verified. The concept of doors to the heavens symbolizes the connection between the divine and earthly realms, highlighting the mysteries of creation rather than presenting physical structures.
Have you ever, stopped and thought about how angels travel between heaven and earth?
Yeah, it's a question that's fascinated people for centuries.
For sure. And today we're going to, deep dive into this whole thing, exploring what ancient texts, specifically the Quran, tell us about it.
Right, and not just that. We'll also examine some potential answers from the perspective of, modern physics.
Oh, cool. So we're going to, bridge that gap between, ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science.
Exactly. It's going to be a wild ride.
Awesome. I'm so ready.
So, what's really interesting is that we often think about angels and their abilities just from, a theological point of view.
Right.
But what if we look at what they do, like their actions, through a scientific lens?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
For example, we know angels are often described as messengers, traveling super fast over huge distances. Think about Gabriel delivering the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
Or the angel of death taking souls. Or even, the story of Harut and Marut.
Those were the angels sent to test humanity, right?
Yeah, exactly. All these stories suggest crazy speed and the ability to travel, super far in an instant.
So how do they do it? Is it, purely a miracle? Or could there be some kind of scientific explanation for these things that seem impossible?
Well, the Quran actually gives us a few interesting clues.
Oh, really?
There's this story where the Prophet Muhammad and Gabriel see a door opening up in the sky.
Wow.
It's almost like it's showing us pathways or portals connecting different realms.
That's pretty trippy.
And then there are verses that talk about time in a way that really makes you think.
Okay, like what?
Like Surah 32.5. It describes Allah doing things from heaven to earth and back again in a day that's equal to 1,000 years for us.
Whoa, that's a huge difference.
It is. It really suggests that time might work differently for angels than it does for us.
Yeah, and we know from Einstein's theory of relativity that time isn't fixed. It can actually speed up or slow down depending on stuff like speed and gravity. I mean, even our GPS has to adjust for that time dilation to work properly.
Exactly. The faster something moves, the slower time passes for it compared to someone who's standing still. So if angels are traveling across these massive distances in space, could they be moving so fast that it causes serious time dilation?
So what seems like thousands of years to us could be just one day for them.
Yeah, it's possible. But the Quran goes even further than that. Surah 70.4 describes angels ascending to Allah in a day that's the same as 50,000 years for us.
50,000 years. That's mind-blowing.
Right. That kind of distance and time compression suggests something even crazier than just speed. It's almost like taking a shortcut.
Like what? Wormholes?
Wormholes are like these theoretical tunnels through space-time. They connect faraway points in the universe.
I've heard of those. But are they real?
Well, they're still just theoretical, but the idea is based on Einstein's equations. Think of it like folding a piece of paper so that two points that are far apart touch each other.
Right.
That's basically what a wormhole does. It makes a shortcut, allowing travel over huge distances in a fraction of the time it would normally take.
So if angels could somehow use these wormholes, it would explain how they could cover distances that would take us thousands of years, but they do it super fast.
Exactly.
But hold on a sec. Are we really saying that angels, these beings we associate with spirituality, could be messing with the laws of physics and traveling through wormholes?
It might seem kind of out there, but remember, we're trying to make sense of these ancient descriptions using what we know about science today. If we take what the Quran says literally, then we got to consider all the possibilities, even the ones that seem totally wild at first.
Okay, I'm following you.
And who knows, maybe what we once thought was purely spiritual or a miracle could actually have a basis in scientific principles that we just haven't figured out yet.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. But if we're going with this idea that angels might be traveling faster than light and using wormholes. What does that mean for how we see reality?
Right. Could it be that the way we experience the universe is way more limited than we realize?
Hmm.
And those Quranic verses about angels ascending to Allah in these huge stretches of time, maybe they're hinting at something beyond just traveling through space.
You mean like,
What if they're also talking about moving through different dimensions of time itself?
hold up, different dimensions of time? I thought we already decided that time was the fourth dimension.
True, but theoretical physics, stuff like string theory and M theory, suggests there could be many more dimensions than the four we usually think about. Imagine a being that only lives in two dimensions, on a flat surface.
So they can only move forward, backward, left or right, no up or down.
Exactly. Now picture a three-dimensional object, like a sphere, passing through that flat surface.
Okay, so I'm imagining a sphere passing through a piece of paper.
Right. The two-dimensional being would only see a bunch of circles appearing and disappearing. They'd have no clue what a sphere really is.
Ah, because their perception of dimensions is limited. So maybe we're like those flat creatures stuck in our three dimensions and unable to see the bigger picture of all these other dimensions that might be all around us.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thought, isn't it? And if angels exist in these higher realms, maybe they aren't limited by time the same way we are.
Whoa. So you're saying angels could be traveling through higher dimensions where time isn't linear like we experience it.
It's definitely a mind-bending concept, but it kind of fits with both what those ancient texts describe and what modern physics is starting to understand.
So reality is way more complex and layered than we usually imagine.
Exactly. And this brings us to another fascinating idea.
Oh, what's that?
If these higher dimensions do exist, could there be gateways or portals connecting them to our three-dimensional world?
Wait, portals? Like actual doorways to other dimensions? That sounds like something out of science fiction.
I know, it sounds pretty wild. But some physicists actually believe that these higher dimensions could have shortcuts or pathways that let you bypass the limits of our three-dimensional space. And these pathways might show up in our world as what we think of as portals.
You're saying that the Quran's description of a door opening in the sky could have been a real portal.
It's a possibility, isn't it? If these portals exist, they could be how angels travel not just through space, but through different dimensions, maybe even skipping over time as we know it. And remember, the idea of portals to other realms isn't just in the Quran.
Yeah, it's in lots of cultures and spiritual traditions.
Right.
Wow, this is all so mind-blowing. So we're talking about angels maybe traveling faster than light, using wormholes, navigating through higher dimensions, and even using portals to move between different realms. That's not exactly the picture of angels with wings and halos that most people have.
It is a different perspective for sure. But keep in mind, we're exploring these ideas not to take away from the spiritual side of angels, but to see if there could be some science behind these amazing abilities they have that are described in these ancient texts.
It's incredible to think that what those ancient texts say and what science is discovering today might actually be pointing to the same things. It definitely makes you question what you thought you knew about reality and opens up some really cool possibilities.
It does, and we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore, so many more questions to ask.
I know, this deep dive is already making me rethink everything I thought I knew about the universe and where we fit in. What other mind-blowing things are we going to uncover as we go deeper into this?
Well, we'll explore even more fascinating ideas and thought-provoking questions in the second part of our deep dive into the incredible world of angels and how they might be connected to the fabric of reality itself. So we've been talking about this whole idea of angels maybe using wormholes and portals, traveling super far, and even moving through different dimensions of time. What does that, actually mean for how we understand reality itself?
You know, it really is amazing how these ideas that used to be like pure science fiction or mythology are now kind of showing up in theoretical physics.
Right.
Are we on the verge of some huge shift where science is starting to back up what people used to think was just spiritual?
It's definitely a cool thought. If angels can actually mess with time and space the way the Quran describes it, maybe reality is way more fluid and interconnected than we think.
Like way more than we realize.
Yeah, imagine a universe where all these dimensions are woven together with hidden connections and pathways that we just don't get yet.
It's almost like, I don't know, we're looking at a tapestry but only seeing a few of the threads.
Exactly.
We're missing the whole picture, all the intricate patterns and connections that are probably right there but beyond our limited view.
Think about the electromagnetic spectrum. We can only see a tiny bit of it, just visible light.
Right.
But there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays.
Right, right. All around us.
And they're all interacting with our world in ways that we can't even see.
So are you saying that these higher dimensions, these hidden pathways, are like those invisible frequencies?
Yeah, kinda.
Like they're all around us, but we just don't have the ability to detect them.
It's a pretty good analogy. Maybe our three-dimensional reality is like just one channel on this giant cosmic radio.
And angels are tuned into all the other channels that we don't even know exist.
Exactly. They're accessing realms and pathways that are totally hidden from us.
Okay, let's just say for a minute that all of this is true.
Hmm.
If angels can use these cosmic shortcuts and navigate through different dimensions, could other beings do it too?
Right. Like, what about aliens?
Yeah. Are we talking about like extraterrestrial life, but not from other planets, but from other dimensions that are right here with us?
The whole alien thing has been a huge mystery for ages. And even though we don't have any solid proof yet, the universe is so vast that it makes sense statistically for there to be other life forms somewhere.
But if they're not coming from other planets, how are they getting here? Through these interdimensional portals we were talking about.
It's definitely possible. Maybe some of those weird things we've seen, things that don't make sense with our current understanding of physics, could be explained by beings from other dimensions messing around in our reality.
Like UFO sightings and stuff like that?
Yeah, those objects that just appear and disappear, breaking all the laws of physics as we know them. Maybe those are glimpses into these other dimensions, these hidden realms crossing over into ours.
It's a pretty wild thought, but it's kind of cool too.
It is. We definitely need to be careful and skeptical about these claims and approach them scientifically. But it's important to be open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, our understanding of the universe is still incomplete.
It is humbling, isn't it? To think that we might just be scratching the surface of what's really out there. That there could be all these whole other realms coexisting with us, full of beings and technology that we can't even comprehend.
It definitely challenges our human-centered view of the universe.
Yeah.
But, it's this sense of mystery and the unknown that makes us want to explore and push the boundaries of what we know.
Yeah.
It drives us to search for answers to the big questions.
So if we want to learn more about these higher dimensions, these hidden pathways, all these other realms, where do we even start? How do we study something that seems so far beyond us?
That's the really tricky part, right? It's like trying to study the deepest parts of the ocean with nothing but a bucket and a rope.
Not very effective.
Yeah, we need to come up with totally new tools, new methods, new ways of thinking to even begin to scratch the surface of these really deep concepts.
But there are scientists working on this, right? Trying to find evidence of extra dimensions and these hidden realities.
Absolutely. There are experiments going on right now in particle physics, astrophysics, cosmology, all pushing the limits of what we know about the universe.
Oh, wow.
Scientists are looking for anything unusual in gravity, tiny changes in space-time, anything that might suggest these hidden dimensions are real.
I gotta admit, it's a little disappointing that we don't have all the answers yet, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting to know that there's still so much out there to discover.
Right. It's the mystery that keeps us going, keeps us curious. And maybe, someday, we will figure out how to unlock the secrets of these higher dimensions and really explore the universe in ways we can only dream of right now. But until then, what can we learn from the Quran and other ancient texts that might help us understand all of this?
Yeah, I'm really curious with that. It's pretty wild to think that these old texts, like the Quran, might actually have clues about these really complex scientific ideas. Do you think there's like a real connection between the spiritual wisdom in these texts and the stuff science is figuring out today?
Well, more and more people are trying to bridge that gap between science and spirituality.
Uh-huh.
I mean, for a long time, people saw them as totally separate, maybe even opposed to each other. But what if they're both, just different ways of looking at the same basic truths about the universe?
I like that. So if we look at what the Quran says about angels and their powers through that lens, what can we learn?
Well, for instance, the Quran talks a lot about pathways in the heavens.
Right.
Maybe
yeah.
that's a metaphorical way of describing the wormholes and those interdimensional portals we've been talking about.
Like passages that connect different worlds, right?
Exactly, allowing angels to travel huge distances, even through different dimensions of time.
And there's that part in the Quran about angels going up to Allah in a day that's like 50,000 years for us.
Right.
That idea of time dilation, like we were saying, that fits with what Einstein said in his theory of relativity.
It does. The Quran seems to be saying that time isn't absolute. That it can be experienced in different ways depending on your perspective, and maybe even manipulated. This makes you wonder if angels exist in places where time works differently, or if they can, actually move through different dimensions of time that we can't even understand.
So are we saying that the Quran, this text from over 1,400 years ago, might have been talking about scientific ideas that we're only starting to figure out now?
It's definitely possible, isn't it? It reminds us that a lot of ancient wisdom has these deep insights that actually line up with modern discoveries.
It's kind of like those philosophers from way back who figured out stuff about the universe without telescopes or microscopes, and then later science proved they were right.
Yeah, like the ancient Greeks and their theories about atoms.
Exactly.
They used observation, logic, and intuition to come up with these revolutionary ideas. It's kind of the same with the Quran and other ancient texts. They might be giving us glimpses into how reality works, stuff that science is just now starting to investigate using its own methods.
It's amazing to think that these ancient texts and what science is doing today might actually be coming together, pointing to the same truths about the universe.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And it just shows how important it is to stay open-minded and explore all kinds of knowledge, whether it's ancient or modern.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the universe is way more vast and mysterious and interconnected than we usually think.
Yeah, definitely.
There are things beyond what we can see, possibilities we can't even imagine, and these links between science and spirituality that we're just starting to understand.
It's humbling for sure. It makes you realize how much we still don't know and how much there's left to discover.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole journey of exploration so exciting. The universe is this endless source of wonder and discovery, and it keeps pushing us to expand what we think we know and to question everything we think is real.
And maybe, just maybe, some of the answers are hidden in both the ancient wisdom from our spiritual traditions and the new discoveries science is making.
It could be that the key to unlocking the universe's biggest secrets is to find those connections between these two worlds that seem so different.
It's like if we can embrace both science and spirituality, we might actually be able to understand the cosmos in a way that's much deeper and more complete.
That's the hope.
Well, that's been the deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the fascinating world of angels and how ancient wisdom and modern science might actually be telling us the same story. We hope this deep dive has left you with some things to ponder, and we look forward to having you join us again as we delve deeper into more of the universe's mysteries.
All right, so today we're diving into something pretty special, pretty fundamental.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran.
Right.
And as you probably know, it's recited in every single prayer, which means it's kind of like, I don't know, the foundation.
Yeah, the cornerstone.
The cornerstone of Islamic practice,
Absolutely, yeah.
Once again, everyone, this is our sister channel, Science Podcast 76, launched a few months ago. Here we review chapters of the Quran in very simple terms. Trust me, it got a wealth of knowledge. The YouTube channel link is given below for you to take a peek. Please like, subscribe, and share with others in order to spread the word.